Notion and ClickUp both promise one place for your work. But in 2026, the real question is simpler. Which tool saves you time? And which one quietly turns setup into a second job, draining hours every Friday with admin tweaks and cleanup? If you only compare feature pages, you can talk yourself into either one. Docs, tasks, AI, dashboards, templates, automation. The overlap is big enough to confuse buyers and small enough to matter once your team starts using the tool every day, especially by week 3 when habits harden and rough edges stop feeling temporary. The monthly price is not the main cost is migration, retraining, broken workflows, and the slow drag of a tool your team keeps avoiding. That is why this comparison has to focus on fit, not hype, because even a $10 per user mistake can become a 40-hour operational mess. Notion starts as a flexible workspace. ClickUp starts as an operations system. That one difference explains most of what you are about to see, including why similar feature lists still produce very different day-to-day user behavior. Notion is strongest when your work begins with writing, thinking, documenting, and linking ideas. It handles notes, wikis, client hubs, content calendars, and lightweight databases with a calmer interface that many teams adopt quickly, often in a day or two, without formal training or a consultant. ClickUp is strongest when your work begins with tasks, owners, due dates, status control, and reporting. It is built to track execution, not just capture knowledge. So operations-heavy teams usually feel that difference within the first week. Especially teams running launches, sprints, or client delivery with weekly deadlines. One tool says build your own system. The other says manage work inside ours. Buyers miss this because both can eventually imitate the other. But the starting point shapes setup time and daily friction. Like the difference between assembling IKEA furniture and moving into a finished office. If you work alone or with a very small team, Notion usually feels lighter to maintain. You can create a client portal, content system, or internal wiki without feeling like you are administering software instead of doing work. Which matters when one person is also doing sales, delivery, and support. If 5 or more people regularly hand work across functions, ClickUp starts pulling ahead. Statuses, assignees, dependencies, and views are not nice extras there. They are the core language of the tool. And that shared language reduces confusion when marketing, design, and ops all touch the same deliverable. You can predict the better choice by asking what breaks first: documentation, coordination, reporting, or clarity. The answer usually points to the platform before any free trial does. Because trials often showcase features while hiding the maintenance burden that appears after 30 days. Here is the trade-off many buyers discover late. Notion lets you shape almost anything. But project management often requires building your own structure, views, properties, templates, workflows, naming rules, and maintenance habits. That freedom sounds strategic until two managers define the same pipeline in conflicting ways. ClickUp flips the problem. It gives you structure fast, but the interface can feel heavy. Spaces, folders, lists, tasks, subtasks, custom fields, views, automations. For some teams, that depth becomes control. For others, it becomes clutter, especially when every manager adds another status, field, or dashboard widget. A flexible tool can become expensive if your team has to invent process. A structured tool can become expensive if your team resists using it properly. In other words, poor behavioral fit can beat cheap pricing and strong features every time. For internal documentation, Notion still feels better. The editor is smoother, Linking is more natural, and pages are easier to organize into something your team actually reads instead of a graveyard of forgotten process notes. That matters when onboarding 6 hires in 1 quarter or updating SOPs weekly. For task execution, ClickUp is usually the safer buy. If your team needs recurring tasks, clear ownership, workload views, deadlines, and status discipline, ClickUp asks for less improvisation and gives managers more confidence, particularly when one missed handoff can delay revenue, launches, or client approvals. Editorial teams often prefer Notion because planning and writing happen in the same place. Briefs, drafts, approval notes, idea capture, and publishing calendars stay connected without forcing every creative step into rigid task logic. A writer can move from outline to final copy without switching context 3 times. Agencies often lean ClickUp because clients create deadlines, handoffs, approvals, and repeatable delivery pipelines. The more moving parts you juggle across people and services, the more useful ClickUp's structure becomes. When 12 clients all want updates by Thursday, visibility stops being optional. A lower sticker price does not mean a lower total cost. 10 hours spent rebuilding process or cleaning up bad adoption can erase months of subscription savings. And 10 hours is conservative if a team of 7 all lose 90 minutes each. By 2026, both tools segment important features behind higher plans. The practical question is not entry price. It is which features your team needs before the tool stops being merely usable and starts becoming genuinely helpful. Because good enough can still mean weak reporting, clumsy permissions, or capped automation. Notion pricing feels reasonable until you expect advanced permissions, serious collaboration, AI usage, or polished team systems. Then the software cost is only part of the bill. You also pay in admin time and template upkeep, plus the hidden cost of one power user becoming the unofficial workspace mechanic. ClickUp pricing bites when your team needs premium views, deeper reporting, more automation, or stronger capacity planning. The issue is not that the features exist, the issue is whether your team can absorb the complexity that comes with them. Because advanced controls only help if people trust and actually update them. Both platforms now layer AI across search, summaries, writing, and workflow assistance. Useful? Yes. Decisive? Usually no. If the underlying workspace does not fit your process, AI mostly helps you move faster inside the wrong system, which is like adding GPS to a car already driving toward the wrong address. If you need light automations, both can work, but if your business depends on repeatable operational triggers, ClickUp usually requires fewer workarounds. Notion can connect flows. ClickUp more naturally runs them, especially for status changes, reminders, handoffs, recurring checklists, and manager visibility across teams. Notion is usually the better buy when your team values writing, link knowledge, lightweight planning, and a cleaner interface more than deep operational control. In practice, that often means strategy docs, content ops, founder notes, and simple client-facing portals. ClickUp is usually the better buy when task clarity, delivery discipline, and management visibility matter more than elegance or simplicity. Think weekly production schedules, campaign execution, service delivery, or any workflow where missed ownership creates immediate downstream problems. The best choice is often not which tool can do more. It is which tool asks your team to behave in a way they will actually sustain. Software fails more from mismatch than from missing features. And that is true even when review sites reward larger feature counts. Founders often choose the tool that looks most flexible during a solo setup weekend. Then the team grows. Handoffs multiply. and the original system starts bending under work it was never cleanly designed to manage. What felt elegant at 2 people can feel fragile at 12. The opposite mistake happens too. Teams buy ClickUp for every possible future need, then create layers of fields and views nobody really uses. Structure without discipline becomes noise wearing the costume of professionalism. And a dashboard with 27 metrics can still leave priorities completely unclear. Mature teams stop asking which tool can replace everything. They ask which tool makes the most important work clearer, faster, and easier to maintain 6 months from now. That question sounds narrower, but it usually leads to the smarter long-term decision. If you are solo, freelance, or running a lean content-heavy business, Notion is usually worth it. First, it gets out of your way, handles documents well, and lets you organize work without a lot of operational ceremony. For a creator, coach, or consultant, that lighter footprint matters more than power. If you run projects across several people, departments, or client deliverables, ClickUp is usually worth the extra weight. The structure pays back when accountability, reporting, and repeatability matter every single week, particularly in teams where delays cascade from one missed owner or overdue task. There is also a valid middle path. Keep docs and knowledge in Notion. Run execution in ClickUp, but only do this if your team is disciplined enough to decide what lives where. Or you will create duplication fast. For example, briefs in one tool and updates in another can confuse ownership. Ask yourself 3 things. Where does work begin? In documents or tasks? How many handoffs happen each week? And who will maintain the system after the excitement of setup wears off? If nobody owns maintenance after month 1, simplicity becomes a strategic advantage. Choose Notion when clarity comes from connected knowledge. Choose ClickUp when clarity comes from tracked execution. If you remember that rule, most of the marketing noise falls away, including flashy AI demos, oversized template libraries, and feature comparison checkboxes that rarely decide adoption. Use software that fits the work, not the pitch. That is how SaaS Decoder helps you buy smarter.